Just to add to Chris's point, most of it's also based on your business process, right? So you start looking at, you want to start at a high level with non-persistent or persistent environments, and then you can start looking and say, based on your business unit, your vertical, and your environment, what is the needs of that particular group? Then you start looking at persistence. So you're saying that thin clients can kind of evaporate that perspective because they reboot, they load, it's flash only from that perspective, but then
I'm just saying from performance, you're starting to see actual smaller PCs are cheaper now than thin clients actually are.
Well, that's the other model, right?
And you're starting to see that maybe the value proposition for 3 or 4 years ago of the thin client as being this kind of just plug and play out of the box. Here it is, it's dumb, it does this little thing. And now we're implementing a lot of technologies with VDI and app streaming and things like that that require CPU cycles maybe on the end device, maybe they don't. And maybe with outbreaks of configure and things like that maybe the actual thin client is on its way out, and that people are coming back in and seeing maybe more ROI from actually managing a desktop. Just curious.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, when we looked at it, we thought it was a thin client was a replacement model, and then as we started looking at different vendors, you start, even though a thin client's not a thin client, I mean, we started adding on, when you start looking at what you need from an application perspective to start making things work, like USB redirection and voice codecs, these extra layers of complexity start adding to your licensing model. So all of a sudden, you're looking at a baseline Dell that you can pull out that are pretty much, like you said, they're reducing their cost so much, and then you can compare it to one of the vendors from a thin client perspective, and then all of a sudden your model has disappeared. So that's why we went back around and said, you know what, maybe our PC replenishment process, we can delay that and keep that as a part of our overall model. So, but the other part is to Chris's point, consumerization of the enterprise has been absolutely massive. I mean, Comcast, we don't like a lot of change in turn, but we're being forced the same way as our service delivery side. When I say we don't like change from my enterprise perspective, service delivery we have to be, right? We have to meet the supply and demand of all the consumers in this room. And our enterprise is having to match that environment. So we're no longer really pigeonhole ourselves to a particular model. iPads are being supported. Actually, Comcast launched an Xfinity iPad application coming out pretty soon here. So, and we're seeing now these consumer devices being added as part of our enterprise. iPads, same way, we're using virtualization, using the Citrix receiver on there. I use it myself to be able to access workspaces from home using SSL VPN. So thin clients are to get me around. Of course, I'm on the roadmap for that. I'm just saying there's a fit for them, but there's also, it's really hard to justify that ROI from a replacement perspective, especially when you've got iPads and other devices out there that you can use just as much. So I don't know, Steve, you want to add to that?
No, I mean, to the point, how the question that we started off regarding adoption, right? It's these types of use cases that are really driving adoption to this model, right? Because you cannot do this unless you're delivering virtually the application. And to do that, you're delivering it centrally. So, like from this is my iPhone here, right? I can get at all my applications, mobile. I'm on the road a lot, and I can access SAP. So we use SAP internally at Citrix. I use it primarily to, for workflow approvals and things like that. I no longer have to wait if I get a phone call or an alert, and I have to say, hey, it's going to have to wait 6 hours because I'm not going to be in front of my PC. I can get it all from here. Likewise, right? I'm getting to the point now where most of our executives travel now with iPads, and as I travel around the state and the country, there's a lot of executives now using iPads, and more of them are accessing their virtual desktops because they download Receiver. This David's comment about Receiver, you can go download that right from iTunes. So this is a free piece of software that's just enabling more mobility and more flexibility use cases.
Do we have any other questions?
I was just going to add one thing about the persistency. So going back to you were adding about, I want to answer your question on antivirus. The persistence component is, does it really exist if you have a thin client, or does that, your security model definitely defines that? Because now on the other side is that you said, well, even if we create virtual environments that are non-persistent, you still have that active or on access issue, and that is an area of contention for us that we're still struggling with. I know there's a lot of vendors out there we're working with McAfee and trying to be able to, but that really defines that model. I mean, you can't really say, well, if I go with thin client, I address those issues, because you don't. So.
We have one more question. And we're going to wrap up, maybe one more after this. We're going to wrap up one more thing after this.
My question is, for the applications that you're not currently outsourcing or utilizing the cloud to host, in an effort to reduce your IT hardware and support expense, are any of you looking into alternative equipment sourcing strategies and support strategies, whether that be self-sparing or third-party maintenance or refurbished equipment?
From an ACE perspective, on the internal side, well, we've moved a lot from individual servers. So I think let's talk a little bit about server consolidation. So we're moving everything to VMware platforms where it makes sense, or to IBM Blade chassis. A lot in those. We're still managing them inside. To say if we started looking for outside services, not yet, but I think anything's on the table at that point where there's a high, and we talked about ROI before, but if there's an attractive ROI on it.
In today's marketplace,